Thank you for having me. Jean-Michel, thank you for your nice invitation to participate to this meeting. My disclosures. Okay, so thank you for the nice invitation. I just noticed that it was not a CT scan conference, but MRA conference. So I have to fight not with one people, but all the room. So I noticed it. Okay, so my opponent is Scott Resnick, is correct? I am sure that we are going to have to find an agreement. You are a professor of radiology and surgery. I have also professor of vascular surgery, and mainly I perform some endovascular procedures. So I am sure we are going to find the agreement during this meeting. So you said previously that CT scan should be performed from venous, correct? For aorta, correct? But not for PID. So let's go for PID. Jean-Michel, give me your presentation in advance. Thank you, Jean-Michel. So, as you know, lower extremity disease is mostly about two kinds of symptoms, claudication, so impairment of the walking distance, but mainly about CLI, and in this case, the interventionalist should save the limb. So what do the vascular interventionalists need to treat lower extremity arterial disease? First, we need preoperative imaging to assess, to plan, but also to predict the outcomes after the intervention. We need also some intraoperative imaging to guide, to decrease the X-ray exposure, and also to increase the technical success rate due to occlusion disease, for example. And finally, we need a post-operative imaging to follow the patient. And all this examination should be performed with low risk for the patient, of course. First, the duplex scan is the first step to assess the patient. We know that it's a fundamental tool for the preoperative and the post-operative imaging. We know that the sensitivity is pretty high, range from 85 to 90% to detect stenosis superior to 50%. And the specificity is also superior to 95%. We know that it's a routine tool to perform the follow-up of this PID patient, but also more and more we are assessing a duplex scan to perform the procedure to, for example, to assess the results of the vessel preparation or the results of the drug coating balloon. But when the physician decides that revascularization should be performed, a complementary imaging should be done, and it is required to provide a roadmap to the entire vasculature and to have a live 3D catheter navigation. So we have different kinds of possibilities to perform this complementary imaging, such as CT scan, such as MRA, of course, and angiography. And it depends in routine practice of the ability, experience, and cost also. But what I used to do in case of CLI, I should treat the patient as soon as possible because we know that time is tissue. And in many cases, we don't perform CT scan, we don't perform MRA, and we go straight for angiography and at the same time, the CLI endovascular treatment. But when we have to schedule the intervention, we need this assessment of the entire vasculature, and we have to choose between CTA and MRA. Everybody knows, and you told about it, that we have some advantage and disadvantage about this technique. For CTA, it's mostly about no acquisition and functional and hemodynamic data, and we know about exposure to radiation and the use of contrast product. About MRA, there is a trend to overestimate the degree of stenosis in patients with PID. We know also that arterial calcification are invisible, and you say that we have some difficulty to estimate stenosis in case of highly calcified lesion, in case of anastomotic site for bypass, but also after stent implantation, we are not able to assess instant restenosis, for example. So what I choose CTA first to assess my PID patient. You can see in this study MRA, CTA, and angiography imaging. I choose CTA because of calcification. You can see this white point on the aorta, iliac artery, or infrainguinal artery, and I need to assess this calcification. Why I need to assess calcification? Why it's so important? First, we have two kinds of calcification. We have this medial calcification, it's a Mönckeberg disease, but the most important calcification are the calcification at the plaque location from the atheromatous plaque. We know also that these calcifications are different. Calcification is not a passive mechanism, it's also an active mechanism. We have some calcification we call microcalcification with clear center. Clear center is in fact some lipid crystals. We have some nodules. Nodules is a big calcification. We have some sheet-like calcification. And finally, we have osteine metaplasia. In fact, osteine metaplasia, you can see here, sorry. You can see here bone, in fact, with osteocyte, and here it's bone marrow. And so we know that the osteine metaplasia is different according to the vascular bed. For example, in carotid, we have less than 20% of osteine metaplasia. But if you look at the common femoral artery of the SFA, it's up to 60% of bone and bone marrow into the atheromatous plaque. And we know that this kind of calcification, sheet-like, center, osteine metaplasia, is going to change the results of the treatment, of the endovascular treatment, of DCB, DES, stenting. We know, according to some study, that in case of vascular calcification, it could destabilize at the atheromatous plaque and contribute to plaque rupture at the infrainguinal level. Also, we know that in case of vascular calcification, it could influence the technical success rate and also the outcomes of the PID procedure. For example, because it increases the early elastic recoil, because it prevents the nitinol stent expansion and also the balloon expandable stent expansion. And we know also that it could limit the drug elution into the arterial wall. So I'm going to give you some example. For example, you can see here an example of we are not able to inflate totally the stent and the balloon. And we have here an example of some home-made atherectomy device. And we have also some example of stent fracture due to this huge calcification. So it's very important about the technical success and the decision of the choice of the treatment. Another example is this publication from my friend Fanelli in Roma. And he showed clearly that in case of circumferential calcification, we decrease the results of the drug-coating balloon in terms of patency. And you see clearly that the patency rate decreased dramatically in case of circumferential calcification. And my team, we have published this study. We assess the total calcification burden at the SFA level using CTA and a dedicated workstation on those sides from Teranva, from France. And we show that it was possible using this software to assess the total calcification. But also we show that below a certain threshold, the presence of vascular calcification might be necessary for plaque stability and may protect against instant thrombosis. So again, calcification influences outcomes of the disease. Finally, we can also use calcification in case of fusion software. We know this software is very useful for physicians, for interventionalists, for aorta procedure, but also for PID procedure. It's a live 3D catheter navigation for use in conjunction with X-ray. And this software could use MRI, but without calcification in this case, and also CT scan. I can show you some example of arterial brachiocephalic trunk procedure. We use some blue circle to localize, and we localize this blue circle at the level of the lesion. And you can see that here we try to recognize this high calcified lesion. And secondly, we stent this lesion at the level of this calcification. And again, to have this calcification using this fusion is very helpful also for SFA procedure. So to conclude, currently in my routine practice, CTA is still my favorite complementary imaging tool due to its availability, because it's accurate, but also because I can use classification. I know that some development are using in MRA, where it's possible to see some classification, but currently it's not available in my routine practice. Thank you for your attention.